we'll go ahead and get started, and I call to order the, what is today, January 8th, 2024 Urban Experience Committee meeting. We don't have to approve former minutes?
You do have minutes from November.
Okay, so we have to approve the November minutes. Before we get started, though, I want to welcome some new people here today. So welcome to Councilmember Kitty Klitsky.
Thank you.
And then Councilmember Dillon, you already got a welcome. And a great welcome to Mayor Lisa Brown. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. So we'll start with a motion to approve the minutes.
So move approval of the minutes.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the minutes pass. Next, we're going to go out of order and go to number 11, 12, and 13, which are appointments for Mayor Brown's cabinet. So would you like to take it away from there, Mayor?
Hello, Council. Can you hear me?
I don't know.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank you for moving us to the front of the agenda here, and then also say, we know it's a big day in Washington State, so I asked my husband, who's a Husky, to help me come with appropriate gear. So I got this, and it's a little big for me, so, but at least I can represent. So anyway, just wanted you to know. So thank you. I want to start with a few appointments that I've made. I want to start with Aaron Hutt. I've appointed Aaron to be our Director of Communication and Marketing. And Aaron comes to this role after working as a communication specialist with the Washington State Senate. And prior to her role with the legislature, she spent several years with local news. She was previously digital director at KXLY, assignment editor at 9 News Denver, executive producer at. And so with that experience, I'm really pleased to understand what she's going to bring to our relationship, both with respect to our external communication and our internal communication, which will involve how we will work together, council and administration. And would you like me to discuss the other two as well, or how would you like to handle it?
Yeah, you go ahead and do it.
Second, I have Dawn Kinder here, and I've appointed Dawn to be the Director of Neighborhood, Housing, and Human Services Division. And Dawn comes to us directly from Catholic Charities of Eastern Washington, where she was Chief Stabilization Officer, but she is no stranger to the city. Prior to her role of Catholic Charities, she was Director of Neighborhood and Businesses Services Division with the City of Spokane, and she oversaw multiple departments, including community housing and human services. I'm trying not to use the acronyms, but to use the full names, among others. Dawn is really well known for her collaboration and for her knowledge of not just the city, but really the regional housing and homelessness situation, and I think will bring a lot to that dialogue. She will be able to jump right in on conversations around collaboration regionally, but also knows multiple providers, both large and small, and is familiar with the city operations. So I think that's a good mix of experience that will be useful in this role. And then finally, but certainly last but not least, is Mike Piccolo, whom I've appointed to be city attorney. And we all know Mike, and Mike has been here a very long time. I actually saw my first year in the legislature a bill that I introduced, and Mike came representing the city of Spokane to testify on behalf of that bill, and it was an affordable housing bill, but that takes us back several decades. He recently served as assistant city attorney. He has over 30 years of experience in this role, and he's worked right here in City Hall for several administrations, and have a lot of confidence in him to get us up to speed on the history of many of the issues that he will confront and jump right in, and everybody also knows his incredible work ethic for the city. So recommending these three individuals to you, and thank you very much for your time this afternoon.
All right, thank you very much. Were we going to ask questions on them later?
Yes, I like to call them up one by one. Just
Right now we're at briefing.
I think
No?
they're here.
All right, let's do it now then. So we'll, yeah, well, I didn't know if the plan was for briefing later. Just so everyone knows, and those of people online, these are brand new mics, and this is our first meeting with these mics. And I believe we're having some streaming problems online. So
Turn it all the way up online.
turn it all the way up online if you are online and you can hear that.
To 11.
Yeah. All right, but we'll go ahead and start with, in the order that's here, so we'll go City Attorney, Director of Communications, and then Director of NHHS. So, Mr. Piccolo, would you like to come up first? Yeah. And we'll just, if you have any words that you'd like to say, and then we'll let council ask any questions that they might have.
Well, I'm very excited for this opportunity. As Mayor Brown mentioned, I have worked in a leadership role with the two administrations, both Mayor Woodward and Mayor Condon, 1 year as interim city attorney before Mike Hornsby got here, and then almost a full year as interim HR director. So this path is not unexpected. I feel like I'm prepared for the challenges and the experience they'll be before me.
Any questions? Councilmember Cathcart.
Yeah, about 12, 13 months ago, we had some pretty significant issues with resource allocation from the legal department, particularly when it came to our landlord-tenant stuff. Some of us in the minority didn't quite have the same access as others, and so I'm just curious, how will you be kind of utilizing the resources for council?
Okay, that's a very good question. And for the 14 years I sat on the dais as the council's attorney, we dealt with that issue, making sure that all council members felt like they had access to our office, and that has never been a problem for me. So I want to make sure that my experience and my approach will continue for the full council. Our office is available for all the council members to come down. We hope the council members feel comfortable to come down into our office. You know, we've kind of lacked that in the past few years. I look forward to having that experience back where you feel comfortable to come down not just to raise legal issues with us, but just to come down and visit with us, get to know us, and we'll get to know you. So we do have some plans to coming forward involving an update to the council rules that are being discussed to make sure all council members feel comfortable and confident they can come down individually and talk to us, or as matters get to the level where it's now at a committee or before the full council, that the full council gets the same information on a timely manner. That should never happen. And from my experience, I made sure that did not happen when I was in that role as the council advisor sitting on the dais to make sure, because it's pretty obvious when not everybody has the same information. It's pretty painful when that happens, not just for the council, but for the attorneys. We want to make sure that everybody gets the same information on time.
Thank you.
Other questions? Councilmember Pingle.
Yeah, Mike, how are you? I spent a number of hours in your office talking about stuff, and I appreciate your approach. I think you're going to do a great job here. Back to Councilmember Cathcart's question. How will your office handle if council members come to you and the legislation that they need help on is probably not going to pass? Is that going to be something that still receives proper attention, or is that going to be something that gets deprioritized?
No, it'll get proper attention, but we want to have the hard conversation of this ordinance may take a tremendous amount of resource time. And how far do we go with that if there's an unlikelihood of it getting onto the council agenda? So we just need to have that hard conversation. If an ordinance is going to require a significant amount of time, we want to make sure we're talking to the full council at some point, at the committee level perhaps, just to make sure that when we put those resources into something that there's a chance that it'll go forward. And I've had the experience of spending a lot of time working on a contract matter or something, and it doesn't go forward. And that's just the practice of law. That happens. But we do want to have that conversation to make sure that we are allocating our resources appropriately. And the smaller the items, the more we can respond to those and get those worked out pretty well. But on the big ticket items, we want to make sure that we have that conversation.
Follow up to that, what, in your opinion, I guess, would be the reasonable balance? Because I totally get what you're saying. I think that's a fair, comment. What's a good balance for you in that regard?
I think it would involve how well versed is the attorney on that topic. The better versed they are, the more they can spend some time on it, knowing that it's not ready for presentation to committee level yet. I've worked on a number of initiative matters that never went out to collect signatures, but you still have to do the work to get it prepared. And sometimes you won't know until you've done the work if it's going to be successful at the committee at the council level. So I think you need to put in the initial work and work up the ordinance to the point where it's presentable and you can actually start debating the merits.
Thanks, Mike.
Any other questions for Mr. Piccolo?
Ms. Piccolo, is there any other department you aspire to be head of?
The legal department is enough.
All right, thank you.
And then I'll just say, channeling former Councilmember Stratton, if you want to share a little bit more about your background or what high school you went to.
I was ready for that question. Yes, I was born and raised here in Spokane, went to Gonzaga Prep High School, out to Eastern Washington for undergrad, then back to Gonzaga for law school. Yeah.
Right. Well, thank you. And I don't think we'll have any more questions at briefing, so we'll let you know later.
Okay,
You know this process well, so
Yes.
thank you.
thank you very much.
And next up, we'll see who's next. I think it was Ms. Hutt. So if you wanted to have any words, and we'll take some questions. Yeah.
Sure. I'm Erin Hutt. I have been here in Spokane. Actually 11 years today I moved here. I've spent the last year with the state legislature. I worked in local news prior to that. I think I've covered all of your campaigns at one point, but excited to be here in this new role and be a public servant kind of in a different way.
Great. Any questions? Councilmember Cathcart?
Yeah, I guess would your priority be communicating to the public or communicating to council, making sure all 7 council members have the same information at the same time? I'm just curious, how is that prioritized?
You know, I think we can do both. I think transparency lends itself to easy flexibility and easy communication, and that's my hope in this role. I know I have a dedication to reporters in town, but I think it's possible to do.
I'll follow up. I know there's
Yeah.
growing pains and everybody's transitioning and there's a lot of stuff moving on, so it's one small thing, but the frustrations over the fire chief situation in the last few weeks and the competing messages, differing press release, so I'm just hoping we can improve upon what happened there and see a much better outcome.
Absolutely. Yeah, I wasn't fully onboarded at that point, but
Yeah.
now that I am, I'd love to get a better system in place.
Perfect.
Absolutely.
Councilmember Pingle.
Yeah, so I love the idea of being focused on external communication and internal communication. I know that one of the things that we all have struggled with in the past is that internal communication between administration and council. And didn't know if you had any, here's a couple quick things I'd love to implement on that, the idea of us being able to improve our internal communications.
Absolutely. Right now, I'm looking at just how all of our systems have worked under the previous administration, delegation of tasks, things like that. I can already see, there's some overlap. People aren't in on the right conversations. I think that's kind of where I need to start, is saying, all right, who's in the room for all of these? Who needs to hear this message? And what channels are we going to use to do that? So still learning the ropes, but I'm hoping to kind of get a better, more organized system in place.
Awesome, thank you.
Council President?
How do you see yourself working with the council members' PIO person as we go forward with external and internal communications?
Absolutely. Well, I think she and I need to work together pretty hand in hand. We're getting coffee on Wednesday, so we're going to get a good kind of start to kick this off. But I think we all need to be on the same page. We need to have kind of the same agendas in front of us. We need to work in partnership to say, all right, who's going to lead the messaging on this? How can we support one another in that? And just show that we are unified. I think that's the first step.
Any other questions? All right, well, thank you very much.
Thank
And
you.
We'll be up for a vote later today. And last one is Ms. Kinder. Well, if you have any words to share, then we'll take questions.
Sure, yeah. So I'm Dawn Kinder, for those of you who I haven't met. I'm really excited to be transitioning back to the city after a few years away. We know that there's a regional challenge ahead of us, especially in the housing and homelessness front, and that's what I love to do. So I'm excited to be here to work for strong leadership, both in council and the administration, and come up with a lot of innovative solutions and problem solving to get us kind of back on track. To front load the where am I from question that I may get later. I was born in California, moved here when I was young. I went to Wazoo, so while I appreciate Mayor Brown's Washington inclusiveness today, I have to throw to go Cougs. And then I went to Eastern for grad school and got my master's in social work there. Spent about 10 years in Seattle working in social services, and then came back about 8 years ago to Spokane.
Great, thanks. Any questions? Councilmember Cathcart and then Mingle.
Yeah, so we had some opportunities the last 6 months to chat a lot about what was happening at 3rd Division, 2nd Division area there, and I'm just kind of curious, Well, some of the things we had talked about that were starting to be employed by the previous administration, is that something that you're planning to continue? Is there going to be a big shift in how we are trying to mitigate for the criminal activity down there? Kind of what's your perspective on that?
I think, just getting this administration started, I certainly have some more learning to do once I get fully onboarded. I know that safety is going to be a primary concern, and we know that that neighborhood needs attention. I think a lot of what we started to put in place in the last 6 months was showing some positive improvements. So I'm excited to share that with this current administration and find out how much of that we can sustain. I know the nonprofit community is also very invested in some of those solutions. I'm excited to have somebody here who can be collaborative and has good relationships with a multitude of providers so that we can really get everybody on the same page and try and get that under control ASAP. Beyond the humanity of it, it's also a gateway to our city, and we need it to look like a welcoming, safe place to be. So we will stay committed to those efforts.
So you still believe in a kind of full-scale effort to improve that situation down there?
Well, I mean, like I said, we've got a lot of catching up to do internally here, and I'm not sure how much Mayor Brown's administration has been looped into what we had started in the past, but knowing that it's been successful and it has to be addressed, and knowing that those agencies are still committed, I'm very hopeful that that will continue. It's certainly a priority of the provider community to see that area addressed.
Well, I'll just add, I really appreciated the time that you spent with myself and former Council President Kinnear walking us through the situations that you guys, Catholic Charities, was dealing with, both internally as well as externally, and I'm really hopeful that that will continue to be a priority to mitigate.
Great. Yeah, and we appreciate your time as well. That was very helpful.
All right, Councilmember.
First, go Cougs. Right? I was going to say it too, but I didn't want to be the first one, so I'm glad I could follow there. No, so we've spent, Nicolette, myself, and various council members spent a lot of time working on a regional homeless authority because you just mentioned the regional challenge that we have, which it 100% is. Where are your thoughts at on the regional authority, not necessarily its specifics as it is now, but the idea of the regional authority moving forward?
I think we still want to head in a direction where that can become a reality. I think there's a lot to establish with the new administration coming in, and knowing that there's a lot we need to do internally to kind of shore up some of those existing programs and funding streams. Assuming that can all be accomplished over these next couple of months, I think we want to continue to look at how we can make that possible.
Mm-hmm. How would you see the Regional Homeless Authority and the COC interacting?
Ooh, I mean, that's a big question.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot to be ironed out there. The COC is also a board that we need to really improve our engagement with and try and provide some additional support for, based on my experience with the COC in the past couple of years outside of the city. I'm excited to get that started and kind of provide additional support to that group. And ultimately, from a federal perspective, they should be guiding a lot of those decisions. So while there's, a lot of interest and a lot of really good intention to weigh into those conversations, the COC needs to be a part of it, as do local electeds and other key stakeholders in the business community, education, public safety, and other cities have demonstrated that can be accomplished. So I don't see any reason why Spokane couldn't do the same, knowing that both have a role to play and they don't have to be the same.
Council President.
Well, first of all, thank you for stepping into a really big hot potato in our city, because it's probably the most challenging issue. I guess my concern is, and your thoughts in the administration, are really how are we going to work towards repairing relationships with providers? I think that is critical for whatever direction you take. So any thoughts on how some first steps that we could do?
Yeah, I mean, I think the exciting thing about me coming into this role is that I have those relationships. Our largest and smallest nonprofit leaders are colleagues of mine currently. Many of them are friends of mine. I've worked with them since I moved to Spokane in 2016 when I was at the city or at Catholic Charities. And in the last year, I've had opportunities to partner, especially alongside of all of our row providers as we launched and opened Catalyst as part of that effort. So I think that's going to be a really exciting opportunity, not just for the city, but also for the providers who are desperate for that interaction. So I see a lot of quick wins in terms of reestablishing collaboration and partnership with our nonprofit providers. And we know that there's work to do inside to repair some of those relationships. But when I came to the city in 2016, it was not a dissimilar situation, and we were able to repair that and create a lot of really exciting momentum in the years I was here, and I look forward to doing that again.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And then I skipped the question of high school for Aaron.
I went to Holy Names Academy in Seattle.
Thank you.
Councilmember, just for clarity, it's not clear on the briefing paper, but Council President Wilkerson is the second sponsor on all these with you.
Okay. Thank you. I think that is all for you. So thank you, Mayor Brown,
Thank you,
and thank you, everyone, for being here. We will go back to the top of the agenda then and start with Marlene Feist for an update on Post Street, please.
Kobe's going to call it my presentation. Good afternoon, Chair Zapone and Council. Happy to be here in the new year. Post Street Bridge has taken longer than we would have liked, but we have a little bit of an update here for you. Jacoby? So you just have to run this for me, right?
I'll run for you.
Okay. So this is a picture of the Post Street Bridge from before construction. I want you to note that ugly sewer pipe and where it's hanging on the side of the bridge. So that sewer pipe needed to be replaced, but also it is not in an attractive position. So just wanted to remember that when we sort of frame our discussion here, not to mention this is a 100-year-old plus year-old bridge, 333-foot long span, so an important connection point. So you want to go to the next one? So here's some different images from construction. Just reminds you how dramatic that construction was. The upper left is just peeling off that deck. And then you can see that we're just down to the arches. And we spent a lot of time reinforcing those arches and bringing them up to standard so they can last us another 100 years. So that was a historic feature that we were able to retain. And that look really does mimic the Monroe Street Bridge, and it really enhances that look across the river. So it's been a ton of work, and we're glad to say that, go ahead, Jacoby. Oh, this is the pipe replacement. Don't forget that pipe. It was a pretty dramatic, really cool for the engineers cut over from one pipe to the other. It was about 36 hours of bypassing across the top of the bridge, and that all really went successfully. So, kudos to our engineers and to our contractor on that one for getting that all done. So that's all in place. The sewage is now running on the new pipe, which I think is in our next picture, Jacoby. So now you can see that pipe is tucked in the bridge. It's much more hidden there. It just kind of blends into this landscaping. And you can see that we're starting to get railing on the bridge. And we will not see this bridge open until the spring because we do need asphalt work to happen on the approaches. And that's going to have to wait till the asphalt plant's open. So the timing is dependent on that. And then I wanted to show you this. So this is sort of the next thing that we're working on is what should the connection on Post Street look like to the Post Street Bridge. So if you go to the next one, Jacoby, it's a closer up of that connection. So this is our concept. This still needs to be refined. This is a rendering, not an engineering version. But basically, we're suggesting that we keep the Centennial Trail on the west side. And you can see that would continue to a dedicated bike lane that goes along the sidewalk next to City Hall that would allow a bicyclist to complete the entire Great Gorge Loop Trail without crossing a street. You see the enhanced crossing, the pink area is enhanced in front of the Mobius location. So like we have the tightened crosswalk right next to Huntington Park into where the skate ribbon is, we'll have a similar type tightened connection there as well. You can see that we have bus-only parking. That would be for Mobius buses, or so school buses coming to the Mobius or school buses coming to the park. It could also be a tour bus. We did have tour buses that often came and would walk the Post Street Bridge. So we would anticipate that happening again in the future. Then the parking would be restored to the east there. Parks is looking on whether those should be all ADA stalls. There'll certainly be a significant number that will be ADA stalls for those who are mobility impaired. Remember, its relationship to the universal playground is very close to that location. So it's important to have accessible parking there. Remember, this is one lane northbound. So this is one vehicular lane plus shared use with bicycles in that northbound direction. Then you see the dedicated contraflow lane, bike lane going to Spokane Falls. An additional widened sidewalk will be on the west side, so you'll have plenty of pedestrian and bicycle access. This will be an area that, because of its the angled parking, the tight crossings, the enhanced crossing at Mobius, enhanced crossing at Huntington Park will be a bicycle and pedestrian-friendly area, and that is our goal here. It's really a connection point that is related to the park. And we shouldn't forget that Lincoln Street also is being designed to have that same level of connectivity from a bicycle and pedestrian standpoint. This rendering isn't quite as pretty, but you can see the cross-section up top where we add the bicycle lanes, we add trees. There aren't trees to speak of on Lincoln Street today. If you go past the Anthony's, go up toward the Wonder Building there. So we'll add trees, widen sidewalks, and bicycle facilities there. And you can kind of see how the street layout would work below. But and that's kind of where we're at.
Questions, Council President?
Well, just quickly on the trees, because that's been a big conversation. If trees are added, whose responsibility will they be? The trees up by Anthony's.
Well, trees, this is a challenging conversation, right? So the adjacent property owners are responsible for the sidewalk and the trees, and but we do have some role in there, and then Katie Kasanke's group in urban forestry does have some role as well in trees. And we are trying to enhance our green area maintenance program, so Parks and Public Works are working together to really get a better handle on green area maintenance, because we know it's sort of been the redheaded stepchild. We just haven't gotten it all together. We really do want a one-call shop. If somebody sees something wrong with landscaping, that it goes to one place and it's handled. And so, and we ultimately believe Parks is the best place for that, with funding from Public Works. So, so we are continuing those conversations and hope to have a finalized concept for you soon.
Other questions? I know I do. You know I do.
I know, that's good.
No, this is exciting to see. If Jacoby, can you go back to the main design? Yeah, that one. It's cool to see the Contra bike lane. I think that's newer than what we've talked about.
Yes.
So very exciting. I was wondering if there's an opportunity to do more than just painted buffer, to do kind of
Well, we
like
could-
Riverside.
So the parking will be between the paint and the curb line. So we don't currently have funding to move the curb line, so we're going to put the bike lane in behind the parking. So the parking would be the buffer for the bicycle lane at this point.
Is there an opportunity to do wheel stops there? Because I know cars always infringe and encroach onto that space.
Yeah, so I can certainly, I'm looking at Nick. Nick's saying yes, there's a possibility of putting wheel stops in.
All right. But
Winter.
with the new snow plow, that would allow
Yeah, we
for
should
that.
be able to do that, yeah.
For the
That's-
plowing of
That's
that.
on order. Mhm.
Okay, that's great. And then does that mean on the east side, there would be no parking anymore?
That's correct.
Correct, okay.
So the bike lane essentially replaces
That's
that parking.
plan. And then the blue area then is just closed off area? Because it's not big enough for parking.
No, it's not vehicle parking. It could be, some of that might be scooter parking. I'll have to look and see what the detail says on that, but,
Okay,
yeah.
so that kind of talks about how we talked about narrowing that intersection for the turn.
Yeah,
That would
it's going to be
essentially
narrow.
narrowed it.
It's narrow because you have the entire row of angled parking, and you just really have the one lane that allows you
To turn into
to make a turn into there.
That's cool. We could talk about partnering with Spokane Parks about making those painted too, by the parking for the street murals.
Oh, yeah, we certainly can look at that,
So
yeah.
just looking
Mhm,
at that.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then I know the last time that we had talked, Nick had presented to, there was going to potentially be a path around the east side of the parking lot too. So is that no longer an option? No. But that was, I'm not making that up, right? Okay.
Yeah, we would remove the path on, we would remove the path on the east side of the lot. There's the existing theme stream pathway over there, so we would connect to that. But the grade of that big mound is in the way, so we decided to really have the two pathways on post.
All right. So you can cross earlier and take the path.
Correct. You can still go down that axis on the far right, go down and go up around the theme stream.
Oh, great. And then I was wondering if any speed bumps or speed tables were still a part of the conversation.
We did not do speed tables. We did bring in we have two really short crossings, both at Mobius and at the Huntington Park location.
In that pink area, the Mobius entrance, it does say that there's a grade change in there. Is that not? It says pavement markings, crosswalk surfacing, and grade change.
So ideally, for the pedestrian experience, we would raise that, but one of the questions there is drainage, and we're still working through that issue. All of the street drainage comes down through there, and so if we can make it work with the street drainage and our civil engineers, then we can consider elevating that. But in the current situation, we're just saying it's going to be a different color paving, that whether it be concrete or painted, but it would not be a grade change quite yet. So we're going to try and get it there. We just don't know if we can physically make that happen yet.
Gotcha. So that's where if I look earlier and it says details to be determined, that's what that means.
Bingo.
Gotcha. All right.
And the blue spots are dedicated bike and scooter parking. Yeah.
So what were the last conversations then about potential speed tables before and after the bridge? Because I know we had talked about that.
Yeah, and because we shifted everything with that mid-block crossing at Mobius, it kind of moved some of those features down. We thought this was a better bicycle pedestrian solution.
I guess a concern that I might have or hear is still that gives more opportunity to speed up as you're entering the bridge. And so we had talked about that being slowing down for the bike and ped opportunity on the bridge, if you slow down the cars on the bridge.
I believe there's a stop sign on the south end of the bridge.
So there'll still be a stop
Yeah.
sign. All right, Councilmember Cathcart, sorry.
No, you're good. Just since the snowplow was brought up, just to throw this out there, I do think that we need to develop a policy on how we are going to be prioritizing the use of that plow, especially if now that we have a protected bike lane or going to have some version of that downtown. We've got it obviously on Illinois, which is my priority. And I think there's one other on the South Hill. And so just making sure that somehow we have a policy that makes sense to prioritize, because I don't imagine you can clear all three in a very short time span, so.
Yeah, so we need to keep a list, obviously, of those and determine what's the most efficient path to cover that area, which we don't have the piece of equipment yet, so we'll get that done before that arrives.
A couple more questions that I had. So then on the south side of the bridge, where the stop sign will be, in the future, if we wanted to add a speed table, is that difficult to add later?
I mean, I think we'd have to have the engineers look at it. There's some islands and so forth to kind of channel the traffic, as some of it can go to Summit Boulevard and to Lincoln. So I think we just have to make it kind of work with what's the features that are out there.
And then for the bike lane, for the contra lane, will there be a vertical bollard there still? Because I know we talked about that too.
We had them take the bollards off the plan at the request of you and the BAP.
Yeah, all right. Great to hear that. And the last question I had, sorry, I know we've talked about this a lot, so great to kind of get all the touches as it's coming up, is on the bridge itself. I don't know if Councilmember Klitsky or Dylan have heard about the plans for the trees and the planters on the bridge. That's still true or not true anymore?
I would have to look at the furniture plan, Councilmember, and I can get back to you on
All right.
that.
Nick saying yes.
Nick saying yes.
Okay, and then we had talked about also the striping around that, of removing one. There was originally going to be two striping on each side of that. Do you know the current striping plan on that?
They're striping, yeah. So I can get the detail.
Okay.
I didn't get that level of detail.
Yes.
Forgive me,
That's okay.
you know.
I know what some of the urbanists in the community were talking about, removing the striping, maybe putting reflectors on the planters, just to try to encourage more. We've talked about like more pedestrian focus so that the pedestrians can move around more, which would slow traffic down too if there's more points of conflict, right? But we talked about that, about how that just slows it down. So if there was an opportunity still to remove striping and just put reflectors, that could keep the traffic moving within the planters.
Yeah, I think that's a question for Inga and whether that meets MUTCD and safety concerns, so yeah.
Yeah, that raises a lot of concerns for me. I feel like if our goal is zero, issues on the roadways, then we should be doing everything we can to separate, not try to encourage them to be intermingling, so.
And I'll just refer to the research that shows that some intersections that have no striping at all actually decrease collisions because of vehicles when they go into the intersections without a crosswalk and other things, they're more likely to pay attention. But when there's designated areas that are supposed to be designated pedestrian versus not, vehicles tend to stop paying attention.
Well, I agree with you. Striping, I don't think does anything. I think it's actually a fairly waste of money for paint, but that's why I support an actual barrier, not
So,
nothing.
like the planters, like, I think that's the key thing. And they gave us the thumbs up on the planter still being there.
Yeah, there's furniture there, for sure.
Great, well, thank you, Marlene, that was
All right.
really exciting. And we'll
Yeah, that's
definitely be
kinda
looking
fun.
forward to the official ribbon cutting.
Oh, me too. I'll let you know.
All right, thank you. Steve McDonald let us know that they were not ready for the monthly report, so we'll get 2 monthly reports at the next committee meeting. And so next we'll go to the adoption of the 2024 Council Rules of Procedure. And I think Jacoby and Chris were going to lead that.
Chris, go ahead and take the lead on this. We worked over the last month on drafting some updates based on Council President and Council Members Apone's feedback and others. As a preview to later tonight, I believe there's probably some good in deferring this until the 22nd so that we can get continued feedback from council members. Chris and I can go around, and I'll pass it over to Chris to give some updates too.
Thank you. So the rules are being revised based on a number of things that occurred last year, some ambiguities we saw in the rules, things that were not covered, plus some more substantive things about open forum and committee structure and so forth. So I'll go through those. Technical changes throughout the rules, a lot of them meant to conform to the Open Public Meetings Act. Not all of you were here last, I don't know if it was November, what day that was, when we had some severe disruption in these chambers. That prompted a lot of good conversation about what we can do in those circumstances under the Open Public Meetings Act. When can we recess? When can we adjourn? What can we do with disruptive individuals and so forth? So a lot of the changes you see about recessing, adjournment, disruption of individuals are meant to reflect back to the Open Public Meeting Act and what City Legal has advised we can do in those circumstances. Also, some changes on the technical front relating to submission of materials via OnBase. I'm not sure if everyone here knows what OnBase is, but it's a clerk system for generating the council agenda and submission of documents. Historically, I don't know how long, committee documents were generated and the agenda was generated through decision application in Teams. But once you got to the council agenda generation, that was all through OnBase. We didn't really have permission to use decisions, and so it was decided to eliminate decisions in the Teams application and have everything related to agendas, committee and council agendas generated through OnBase. This was a major effort undertaken by Jacoby, Aaron Haugen, and I don't know who all in IT was involved over the past several months to reconfigure OnBase to be a little bit more user-friendly, to accommodate a process where documents were submitted for committee through OnBase, and then also, we hope the benefit of making it a little easier on departments going forward as they transition from a committee agenda and their items there to council agenda and having their items moved to the council agenda. And so it's meant to be a little simpler. It's meant to eliminate some of the frenzy that they had to deal with when things moved from committee to council. I'm trying to think what else, Jacoby, I should cover on that front. There's some other miscellaneous technical changes in the rules to conform to what our code actually says on how the council functions, or the charter for that matter. So those are kind of an overview of the technical changes. Probably the bigger things, how the committees are structured. There's a proposal to have an executive committee chair and 2 vice chairs that would control the access of documents in and out of committee more, and particularly movement of items from committee to council agenda. So I suggest you review those carefully. The little bit more rigorous requirement that you go to the right committee, that you don't pick a committee, the next one's up, and use that committee. There's going to be more insistence that you go to the committee that you're assigned to, and the rules will say which departments are assigned to what committees. So it's a little easier for them. But they will, on the plus side, have more time to move their stuff from committee to council agenda under this new system. Finance has been moved to the end of the month. I just bring that up because we're changing the order of the committees. If I remember correctly, Jacoby, this is at the administration's request, correct?
Yeah, for
Yeah.
reporting purposes.
Yeah. So on to the big one, open forum. So the version that's actually been circulated, but I'm not sure that I would call it the current version, recommends that open forum be moved to the third Monday of the month, and that the slots available be 40 slots instead of 15 slots. I'm not sure that has where that's going with the council right now. I'm not sure it's worth talking about it. The consensus I'm hearing is that we're going to keep open forum every Monday night, but maybe play with whether it's at the beginning or the end. So I'm not sure it's worth it to talk about when open forum occurs under the council rules, because that's still evolving. But there are some other important changes for open forum. We try to regulate a little bit better how the public participates in open forum. For example, and this again is partly arising out of the disruption of the meetings last fall, but we define what you can talk about at open forum. You can talk about affairs of the city, and that's defined. And that's clearly defined to things like ordinances that have been passed, resolutions that have been passed, conduct of city officials. I'm trying to think what else is in that list, but we narrow what you can talk about, so it's not everything under the sun. There's some discretion of the council president with to ability to expand and allow other testimony, but generally speaking, you got to focus on things that the council can deal with and not other topics. Other things designed to minimize the disruption coming from the audience in open forum, and then for that matter, during the legislative portion too. There'll be a prohibition against standing up during any testimony. This is not simply because we don't like people standing up. This is really disruptive to council. It's disruptive not only to the members up here, but to the audience who has to figure out how to watch what's going on with council when people are standing in front of them. Other things we've added are limitations on having visual materials in the audience. If you have visual materials, other materials you want to share with the council, we give you a website that allows you to send that stuff to council members. One thing we had to deal with last year was the whole first name, last name business. Whether or not you're required to state your full and last true name, that's been eliminated. So that won't be an issue anymore. I'm not sure there's anything else in that category. Suspension of the rules, procedural issue that I think you would want to pay attention to as council members. The current rule is the majority present plus one, which has always proven to be a little bit of a challenge sometimes to apply. It's a simple rule now. It takes 5 votes to suspend the rules. So that's a change. We talk about the difference between amendment and substitution, which is something that wasn't clear in the rules. For your benefit, we come down on this simple notion. Substitutions are things that happen before it hits the dais. So if a council sponsor has submitted something and would like to make a substitution, those sponsors, the majority of sponsors, can actually simply substitute it as long as they meet the timeline requirements, which is a week in advance, I think.
Yeah, if we were to use this committee as an example, this
Yeah.
is a little odd because this one was filed also for legislative session, the rules in particular. But let's say we got council feedback on a resolution at committee, and those council sponsors wanted to incorporate some of that feedback before they formally moved it on to be on an advance agenda. They could substitute a new version between now and Friday at 10 a.m. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah, what happens if the primary sponsor wants to change, but the co-sponsor says no? And it's already filed?
It's the majority of sponsors, so.
So it has
that'll-
to stay the way it is.
If
You
the
would have an
majority, you have to have the
opportunity for
majority of sponsors to change it, to put in a substitution.
Okay.
Now,
So it
but-
can't, so basically, the issue that I'm dealing with tonight with the short-term rentals being changed and I didn't know it, that would not be allowed to take place, correct?
Conceivably, but.
Great.
Let's talk a little bit further, because the other side of the coin is amendments. Amendments are what happen during debate. And so there are rules that will be put in place where you can propose an amendment to something that's on the agenda. And as long as you circulate it, I think it's a Friday before the council meeting, you can make a motion to have that amendment adopted, and you have a discussion that goes with that. So let's say you have a substitution that doesn't get by because the majority of sponsors don't want to do it. That doesn't prevent any of the council members from circulating an amendment before the council meeting and asking that the council consider that amendment. Important, go ahead.
Well, and that Friday at 10 a.m. deadline is to try to normalize getting those proposed amendments in the agenda packet for the public to view, for council to see and digest over the weekend, so that you know what proposed changes are coming down the pike.
And that's exactly what I was going to say, which is, part of the frustration at the public level is not really knowing what you're acting on when there are all these changes. And this is designed to have better public access to those amendments as they're being discussed. We had some legislation last year that was vetoed. You have an item on your agenda that was actually, an ordinance that was vetoed last year by Mayor Woodard. The question came up is, can the council consider an ordinance that's been vetoed? In other words, bring it back. There's some ambiguity there, and we've decided to address that ambiguity in the rules and say, as long as you go through the committee process, you can bring an ordinance back that's been vetoed. And that's the purpose of that. So, finally, go ahead.
Just related to that, what about something that's been indefinitely deferred by the majority?
I don't have a ready answer to that,
But would-
because you haven't acted on
Presumably,
it.
would we treat it the same as a veto?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, so we would not be allowed to bring that back.
Well, I wouldn't say that. I mean, I haven't addressed that. I probably would want to talk about that with
Okay.
Jacoby and Mr. Piccolo, but I'm trying to think how that might mechanically work. So,
Chris, wouldn't that follow Roberts, where someone on the prevailing side could bring it back?
there is some language about reconsideration.
But I'm just thinking outside of Roberts, within our own rules, would there be a provision for that? If we're making a special provision for veto, I feel like we should make the same special provision for an indefinite deferral.
Okay, well, I'll make a note of that.
So, Council Member Cathcart, so are you thinking, like, it could be indefinitely deferred, and then after a certain period, it could come up at committee again? Is that kind of your thought around that?
Maybe, I mean, I feel like, if you wanted to, I mean, it'd be maybe, an effort that it might be a waste of time, but you could bring it back to the next committee and it would just get indefinitely deferred again. But I think that would be the right to do that.
Clearly explain it.
Or just, we could talk about how that might work. Maybe put a deadline on how long something can be deferred. And then what happens once that deadline comes to be. The last item I'll talk about as fast as I can is all about legal inquiries. You heard from Mr. Piccolo tonight about how he will endeavor to make sure that all council members have access to legal. And we've tried to codify that in the rules as to what happens with your legal inquiries, and more important, what happens with the information that comes back, and making sure that we preserve attorney-client privileges as a body. So that was an issue that came up last year, and we decided to tackle it in the rules this year as well. Anything else, Jacoby?
No, that's great.
Councilmember Bingle.
All right, so a couple things I just want to make sure that I understood this right as we went through it. So to get something out of committee would require one of the 3 executive committee members and any other council member for it to move out of committee onto the legislative agenda.
Yes.
Okay. And then the other thing was about the substitutions and how does that work? There was some legislation in the last couple of years where it was, an hour before we were voting on it, we found out this was happening. So how would we be able to do a substitution or an amendment in that scenario?
You'll have to suspend the rules.
Okay, so if the rules are suspended to add something to the agenda, but then the rules do not get suspended for us to make an amendment,
Not if they're timely submitted. So if you put your amendments in the queue the Friday before.
right, but we don't know about it until an hour before we're voting on something, which has happened. So if that's the case,
Yeah.
and it's submitted, if it wasn't given to us by the Friday deadline, can we address that in the rules and make sure that that's something that if it's not
It's a
given to us by
suspension of
that?
the rules, and then you're off and running and saying, I want this considered as an amendment or a substitution,
So-
you know, that day.
My understanding, if I'm understanding correctly, nothing would come forward unless the rules were suspended, so then it would take 5 votes, and then anybody can add anything
Well,
with 5
but
votes.
the rules could, in theory, be suspended for the purposes of adding
Yes.
something to the agenda, and then if we would have to suspend the rules again to amend that, then we would not have an opportunity necessarily in the scenario that happened for us to amend or
And if we don't
Substitute.
even know it's coming, how would we even prepare an amendment?
Yeah,
Well,
And this has literally happened on an hour, 1 hour and 3 minutes notice.
Council
And
President.
so with the new rules, that is to alleviate this issue.
Right.
Because I have frustrations. Don't send me something at 12:58. Expect me to have read it, digest it, and vote on it. At that point, I would probably ask who's ever putting that forward, unless it's just like an emergency, I would encourage you to ask for a 1-week deferral and get it in the queue so your stuff can advance.
yeah, no, I totally agree with that idea, but situations that have happened on this council, we found out an hour and 6 minutes, I believe it was, okay? But, we found out 66 minutes before we were voting on it, that a significant, thick piece of language was coming to us. And so if the rules could be suspended to add something, they could be suspended for the purpose of simply adding it, but not necessarily making an amendment on it.
I will say, the rules can be suspended for any purpose. A rule suspension could be any purpose, so you can then make a motion to.
I understand that, but you would have to have 5 votes to suspend something else.
Yes.
The point that I'm trying to make is that there is a place where this could be abused, where 5 votes could be used to suspend the rules to add something, but not 5 votes for us to be able to amend something. That's the situation I'm trying to get us out of. That's my
so
question.
you're worried that the
So-
threshold, go ahead.
Well, there could be maybe some language saying that if an item is added via suspension of the rules, a motion to amend that item that was added via suspension of the rules is 4, not 5. That you have an opportunity if something is added via suspension.
Or that if it's suspended to be added, it should just be open to amendments, if that's something that just added. It wasn't there by the Friday deadline,
Right.
then the amendment shouldn't have to be there by the Friday deadline.
I guess
Well,
my
hang
counter
on.
would be presumably if 5 are willing to suspend the rules to add it, they're probably comfortable with that version.
But that's a very untransparent perspective.
The presumably, I
So
think
I-
that's the idea.
So I would say, because we're going down this rabbit hole,
Sure.
and Mr. Wright needs to probably take a good look at this, is why they're being deferred till the 22nd.
Sure.
So
The-
let's-
I'm
let's
happy to
see.
have this conversation
Let's-
offline.
Let's
Yeah.
have this conversation
Yeah.
and see. I hear what you're saying,
Yeah.
Councilmember Bingo. So let's try to work through this
Yeah.
and see if we can't get to something where, because the whole issue is not to block all legislation, ordinance, suspensions. No, that is to have the best dialogue, conversation for the betterment of the people. So, Mr. Wright, if you take that on, I think we can move on to that. Anything else? Sorry, Councilmember Zepone, just took over your meeting.
Yeah, Council President, you get later. Well, any other feedback? I think this is helpful from hearing from folks right now so that we can take it. So feedback would be helpful. The intent behind the substitution and the suspension is actually to increase transparency so everyone can see all the proposed amendments. But something could evolve over the weekend.
It is a very good idea. I like the idea. I also see the opportunity for abuse, unfortunately. Even if that's not the intent, I can see where by the letter of the law, things can happen.
I would just say the current rules also allow what you're talking about to happen too.
I know, and I don't like it. Shoot, there was something else that was,
Any-
on the committees and bringing something forward in committee. There are certain committees that have less times that they meet based on where holidays fall. Have we,
I have set up calendar invites and created meetings in OnBase to make up for any cancellations. We will have double committee days under this current
Beautiful.
proposal on Mondays after the committee that was missed.
Love it.
If everybody is fine with a double committee day. We got rid of them last year because people didn't like it, but if we're good with double committee, then we can bring them back.
Yes.
The other, also about the executive committee process, I think it's important to note, this is to help create more oversight, and the executive committee would actually vet the consent agenda items. Right now, a lot of council members, myself included, or myself only, we just say, okay, great, and sign it off. So this would actually have 3 people that would vet things and know what's happening, and we would get to know the departments better and know their long-term projects and goals.
And I'll say, I think there's a lot of merit to what has been proposed, and so I don't want to make it seem as if I'm just, dumping on something, because that's not what I'm trying to do. There's a lot of merit in it. A few things with tweaks I think could be really good, so.
Any other feedback for the rules that we can go workshop some more?
I'm glad we're deferring.
So the big things are open forum, talking about the rule suspension. What I'm hearing is you just don't want a rule suspension to be allowed. It's mostly.
No, I want a rule suspension to happen, but I think that if a rule suspension, we can talk about this
Oh,
more,
yes.
yeah.
And then we'll go on to the next thing. I think really quickly we could do boards and commissions, and then I'll stop and do what we have guest presenters for, and then go back to just council staff.
Great.
So,
Great.
board and commissions real quick.
Yeah, board and commission appointments, again, being proposed by Council President and Councilmember Zepone, who are the sponsors here. Council members sit on various boards and commissions internally and externally, many of which are designated by the bylaws of the organization outside of the city of Spokane, the Airport Board and U-District PDA being good examples. We are proposing a version that will probably need some adjustment, Chris and I will bring forward an updated version for formal amendment in between now and the 22nd. Again, that's the request of staff to defer this item, which is currently on your legislative agenda tonight, to the same day as the rules, the 22nd. That is the next time you will all meet. Any specific questions, concerns about the version that was in the packet?
I'll just make a comment that after the first draft went out, not only did we hear from my fellow council members, but we also heard from committee members too, where our council members are sitting. There were some requests, so there was a lot of other information that came in that made me decide to defer this as we take it under consideration, and from the community members. So it's in flux. Nothing is in stone. And please remember, when the new council member for District 2 is appointed, then those committee assignments will probably change again going forward. So I don't want anybody to get their socks in a knot. We will continue to do the business of the city.
All right, great. We'll go ahead and jump ahead to, we're going to skip all the council staff ones and just go to number 8, which is the revising centers and quarters designations for pedestrian streets with Tara Black. Figured that we should try to let you guys go back to work.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Jacoby, could you help with the PowerPoints? I have a really quick one. I will try to be speedy. I'm here. I'm Terrell Black from Planning, and Brandon Whitmarsh, also from Planning, has been working on this project. This is for a section of East 29th Avenue in the South Hill. This came from council, so in October of 2023 by resolution at request of Lincoln Heights Neighborhood Council. This item was added to the Plan Commission work program. The Plan Commission has had a workshop on this already December 13th, and will have their public hearing this coming Wednesday. So there is opportunity for testimony at the public hearing. We've also done mailed notice to property owners, taxpayers, and residents within 400 feet of this area, and additional mailed notice in December of the public hearing before the Plan Commission. There will be not any more mailed notice, so if anyone wants to continue to receive updates on this, they need to email us. We do have about 45 people on the notification list on the email, and we do also have a project page. The project page also has a link to the staff report, which I was not able to put into your packet because this was just because of the timing, talking about the timing. And we'll also have, of course, in your packet, the findings of the Plan Commission. So this is the section of 29th. We were directed to look at the area between Martin and Fisk. Martin, the centers and corridor zoning does not quite go all the way to Martin, and it extends a little bit east at Fisk and catches one more parcel in there. So we've looked at this whole area. Can I get the next slide, Jacoby? A pedestrian street designation is a zoning classification. The biggest change for property owners is it puts a use limitation. It does not allow drive-through businesses to be established. So, of course, ones that exist can continue, but new ones cannot be established. And we've just had a lot of comment. The name is a little misleading, maybe, pedestrian street, so wanted to just be really clear. It doesn't change the classification of the street. It's an arterial street, as we all know, very busy street. Doesn't close it to vehicular traffic. There are not any pedestrian improvements that are planned or funded as a result of this action. So again, we're having the hearing on Wednesday, and you'll be getting the findings from that.
Councilmember Cathcart.
So if we are making these changes, I assume changing, and I don't know what the underlying zoning is right now, but if we're changing it to CC1, does that significantly essentially upzone what's allowed in that area? Height limits increase, a lot of things increase, correct?
We have an interim zoning ordinance in place for centers and corridors. It was part of the BOCA package, and so that is still in place. You continue that. So there is increased height, whether this change is made or not.
Because obviously,
This just adds the limitation for drive-through businesses.
that's it. That's all we're doing is that.
That is the primary thing. It also has some limitations on curb cuts and things like that.
I guess I would just question what the pedestrian emphasis is if we're not going to upzone and allow for more dense development in that area around where we're going to have these businesses where we're, prohibiting drive-throughs. So what is the plan then to try and increase the density around those businesses where they don't need to rely on a drive-through?
Well, the underlying zoning already does allow quite a bit of density and capacity that hasn't been used at this time. And as you know, we're also doing a centers and corridors study to look at what we should do to further incentivize development in these areas.
And what is the existing height limit in that area?
The existing height limit under the old zoning is 55, and I believe it's up to 70 or 75 under the interim zoning ordinance. And we
Okay.
have greatly reduced parking requirements in the centers and corridors. And of course, right now, for any residential development, there's no parking required.
Okay, thank you.
Council
So
President. Yeah, go ahead, go. Oh. All right, Councilmember Mingle.
Yeah, sorry, this dotted sort of Band-Aid looking shape here, that is where the designation,
The red line is the designation.
Right.
The dotted line is the notification area.
oh, gotcha. So
Yeah.
then so would it just be businesses that front on that street that
Yes,
could not be
parcels
drive-throughs
that
anymore?
have frontage on that.
Okay, so we're realistically talking about just a number here. When this was asked of us, I didn't realize it prohibited drive-through businesses. Is there a specific business that neighborhoods were trying to prevent going into this one area? Was it just like, we don't like this business, please change this, and then they can't come in?
We have had a couple pre-development applications in this area for drive-through restaurants.
Gotcha.
And then we do have quite a few that exist in this area. There's a Taco Bell, McDonald's,
KFC.
Yeah.
KFC, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So there are quite a few existing, so that they would allow.
What were
of
the
course, to
pre-development
continue.
businesses? Do you remember?
I do not remember. There was one at Fisk and 29th, which was, I don't remember what it was, sort of a fresh fast food. And then the other one, I believe, was for a Chick-fil-A.
Gotcha. I think those were all of my questions. I think I had something else, but I can't remember.
Council President was next.
So just for clarity, so there are some empty businesses there now that have drive-through. I'm thinking of the old Jack in the Box, I think.
Yes, there is a vacant one that's boarded up at 29th and Fisk.
Right. So
Yes.
if a business went into that boarded up, would it be under the same restrictions that we're applying now or looking at applying?
If they, we would assume that building's been vacant for a long time, so they'd have to make substantial renovations, and in that scenario, they would probably not be able to continue that use.
Okay. I'll just only say before I became council president serving District 2 in the Lincoln Heights neighborhood, for a significant number of years, they have been talking about just traffic on 29th and the safety in the senior citizen homes and crossing 29th. If you try to get across 29th, or just the backed up traffic on 29th, especially from Grand, which is the dollar store, I guess, or Safeway, down to the other end. It is immensely difficult to navigate. I want to say it's almost about, what, 3 or 4 blocks. That's bumper to bumper to bumper. So,
Yeah.
so the neighborhood expressed concerns long before, and they've been actually advocating for this for some time.
Yeah, there was the South Hill Neighborhood Connectivity Plan and also the Lincoln Heights District Center Plan, which also talked about making pedestrian improvements in this area and the importance of that in general, yes.
Council Member Cathcart, and then we got other
Yeah.
things to move on to.
Last thing I would just mention is, my only concern is when I think, through our regulation, our codes, we force folks into, a non-conforming status. I think that just incentivizes, them to disinvest and frankly allow things to deteriorate. And so I would just keep that in mind and make sure that there are some incentives, whatever involved in this, to make sure that a Jack in the Box doesn't just sit there and fall into disrepair. A McDonald's doesn't sit there and fall into disrepair, because at the end of the day, they're non-conforming and there's nothing they can do.
Yeah, last quick question. How many different streets in the city do we have that are proposed like this? Is there an example of, this is a great example of a pedestrian street?
We have Perry Street and a section of Monroe, and I have the whole list in my staff report, and it is also in your draft in the
Okay.
agenda, so.
Thank you.
And then Councilmember Dillon.
Yeah, just really quick, thank you so much for this report, and just really like to thank the Lincoln Heights Neighborhood Council and the neighbors. We've seen your emails and the overwhelming support, and really appreciate everyone's advocacy for this designation.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, next we'll go to resolution to recognize the final South Logan TOD plan, and this is with Byron Murphy.
All right, I will keep mine to a briefing instead of an overview. But while he's pulling that up, just a reminder, the South Logan Transit Oriented Development Project, we're focused on creating a vision for South Logan. You can go to the next one, yep. To create more walkable mixed-use places along the city line through this area, and hopefully enhance connectivity and livability. So I'm not going to go through everything that I have here. Obviously, I've had quite a few presentations to you all, and the full plan and environmental impact statement is in, or you should have both of those. But just really quickly, so the project objectives, we've been looking a lot at zoning and standards. That's one of the key features of this plan, and I will touch on the land use framework briefly. We've also been looking at housing affordability and discussions around anti-displacement strategies. So we have those reflected in the plan. One of the big focuses has been the environmental impacts. Again, as a reminder, we've been studying the environmental impacts for the whole study area instead of at the individual project level. So that allows for permitting to move faster and for the planned actions to move forward in a more timely manner after the adoption of this. And then ultimately we have our plan and policies that are informed by community vision and presented in the document. So these plan values, again, I won't go over them, but just wanted to bring them up. They recognize the unique characteristics of South Logan, as well as are kind of the basis for what the recommendations are built around, and they helped inform the direction of the overall plan. Go to next. I do just want to mention community outreach, since we have a couple new council members that haven't been through us throughout this process. We had a fairly robust couple years. It's been about 20 months of planning work, and so we've done a lot of different things, online, in person, community survey. We had a community workshop, 3-day community workshop on site, and stakeholder interviews. We've done a combined over 30 presentations for community, council, commission. We did 2 full mailings, about 3,000 addresses, so really trying to get the information out there. We also worked with Gonzaga to try to reach the student population, being a significant portion in this area as well. And then just a reminder, we had our full draft environmental impact statement. So what you see now is the final environmental impact statement. The draft, they are different documents. The draft looked at all of the alternatives presented, which again, I won't go through, but we did have 3 action alternatives. And then the final covers the preferred alternative. So what came out of that, what we heard from public comment, and then we analyzed that, and that's what you have in front of you. So it is a different document. And then as far as the preferred alternative, nothing that we haven't talked about yet, but really trying to maximize those opportunities for transit-oriented development, so trying to connect more people to transit, housing, services, amenities in the area, leveraging that investment in the city line as well as other public improvements, looking at housing and development potential around the station specifically. We heard a lot about the historic characteristic of the neighborhood, so trying to recognize that through recommendations, and then of course connecting to larger mobility within the area. So this is just one map of the document. There's a lot in there, but it's probably the juicy one, so I wanted to bring this up. Essentially, it's our land use framework. We have not made the changes in this that are proposed in this plan. That's what will be coming next, but we did just want to talk about some of the changes that we are looking at. Again, in the south, we have an expansion of the centers and corridor zoning, and that's really trying to capitalize on that transit-oriented development connection. So we see expansion there, that's in the purple. And then as you move farther north, kind of steps down, we have some higher density at the Gonzaga University, as well as along the Hamilton corridor with the context area, that's the form-based code, some higher density and heights along Mission Park, and then as we move up, we're switching to residential multifamily, which is currently single family. The heights do remain the same in that area, it's just allowing for more types of development. So that's kind of the overarching focus. This is a different map that just looks at intensification, so you can kind of see the key there of sort of a range from minimal to moderate to more change, and then just some highlighting of some public infrastructure. But we'll move on to the next one. So we did have a Plan Commission public hearing last month, and we received some public testimonies, both for and against the final plan. The Plan Commission did vote, and they voted 6-2, so we did have 2 no votes. And those were concerns over displacement, not feeling like there was strong enough strategies in there for displacement, as well as just concerns over changes to Hamilton Street and any sort of future traffic calming measures. So that was kind of the characteristic of the no votes for Plan Commission. And then they did make an amendment. Or 2 amendments, but one that I'll highlight is we had removing parking requirements within that quarter-mile buffer of all uses, and they wanted to just have that removed for the entire study area. Next. Oh, I just had that up in case anyone had questions, but I'll keep going. So what you all will be taking action on, hopefully, is the consideration of the final plan, as well as the final environmental impact statement. We're putting those forward as a resolution for now, and that recognizes the work that went into it, recognizes the direction to move forward. So that's the package that you'll have with the draft resolution. And then we'll be coming back with the additional ordinances, including the planned action ordinance, which helps set the development parameters that would be exempt from SEPA. So we do anticipate coming back, you can go, Jacoby, to the next one, throughout this year to bring those next phases forward. So kind of think of it as the end of phase 1, establishing that vision and guidance, and then we'll move on with the ordinances.
Martin,
Or yes, you.
just thank you for all your work on this and the time that you spend. It's been really, really helpful, and I appreciate it. Just the one comment I'll make is it gives me a lot of concern, frankly, is this piece about parking. And I'll tell you, I have heard overwhelmingly since we approved the parking changes in the TOD from folks over there, very concerned about Gonzaga, the impacts that they've had forever, not only going forward. And so I can support it, but only if there is a substantial investment in parking enforcement in that area. Because we have folks, older folks, they are intimidated by the college students, there's fights, there's all kinds of stuff. And those college students don't give a rip about what some of the long-term neighbors there, what their concerns are when it comes to parking. And they block driveways, they make it very unsafe, it's an emergency situation, they can't get out. So I can support this only if there is that substantial investment in parking enforcement. And that's been something I've been trying to work towards, but we're not there yet.
Thank you for that. And if I can just say, as far as parking, there is still the recommendation in there for that. The parking garage is kind of that catalyst development. So we are trying to address the balance, but thank you.
Other questions or comments?
On the displacement, I think what we're worried about are folks who are renters. And I know in the landlord-tenant ordinances that we just passed, I believe that it discusses displacement quite a bit. So I hope that is something that would address the concerns of some of those planning commission members, because it's not lost on us. And we have, I think, addressed in other ordinances this very idea. So I hope that those compare well together. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to ask, what were the plans for displacement? I remember we had the one presentation, but I don't know how that wraps into this.
So we have the full displacement or housing and anti-displacement memo as an appendix in the plan. But overarchingly in the plan itself, it is still kind of guidance. And so looking at a couple different tools, we talked about development agreements, which are site-specific with a property owner in the city to try to come up with some kind of community benefit, like maybe it's retaining a local business and a ground floor. We looked at both commercial and residential displacement. So that was one of the things we also heard was for commercial, trying to keep the local businesses there and redevelopment and sort of valuing that. And then looking at possible policies like right to return, or so if there were a redevelopment, again, either residential or commercial could have a right to return to that. So it's just kind of supportive statements at this time, and then hoping that we can continue at the city level to identify some policies and really programs. A lot of them are program-based.
Councilmember Cathcart.
Yeah, what does right to return mean? I've never heard that in this context.
So it's when there is redevelopment, like if there were redevelopment of a parcel and it had a business in it, the policy would have a priority for either locating back at that site or locating within that area.
So would they just have a first right of refusal, or would they actually be guaranteed a rent at a much different rate based on some historic thing?
I can't speak to the specifics, but we could certainly look into model policies for that. Yeah.
No. Anyone else? All right. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Martin.
All right, next we'll go to item number 5, which is family-friendly festivals ordinance. And I'll actually kick that off instead of Chris, right?
Okay.
Unless you want to.
No, it's all yours.
All right. So the family-friendly ordinance would it's an ordinance to loosen the restrictions on beer gardens and street festivals in the city right-of-way here in the city of Spokane. Current SMC is actually more restrictive than the state law and the Liquor and Cannabis Board requirements. And so this really spurred from talking to event organizers and individuals in the community who put on these events about some of the barriers to those, while also talking to people at events and during the event. So the original idea came while I was at Tacos and Tequila, hearing from people there. They're like, I really wish I could take my kid into this event with me. And so we looked into the SMC and saw that there's actually a prohibition. So the family-friendly festivals ordinance would allow all ages beer gardens at events. would only apply to right-of-way. So really, city streets, and when those are closed down, they would be special occasion ordinances, and they would still have to apply through the LCB and meet all the requirements of the LCB, which, if you talk to event organizers, Washington State is much more restrictive than most states are already. So some of the main provisions are allowing all ages into the beer gardens. So if you close down a street, you can feasibly make that whole street, the event, an alcohol zone. It would still require fencing, but it would make the fencing in line with the state, which is 42 inches instead of 48 inches. It would not require people to stand at the entrances to monitor, and it would not require wristbands either. And it does not have a restriction on the number of beer gardens at an event. So right now, say if Hoop Fest wanted to have multiple beer gardens, they're restricted only allowing one beer garden for their event. And this would not have a limit on the number of beer gardens for the event. We've done lots of outreach to organizations. So far, DSP, Visit Spokane, and GSI have all said that they're in support. We've talked and consulted with city departments, police, fire, ONS about their processes. And there are concerns about youth and underage drinking, and that's always a concern. I think this is very similar to other spaces that we already allow this type of festival, such as Brick West. And it would allow live music, families to gather and hang out. And we've seen that as being wildly successful around Brick West. So now nonprofits could do that around the city. It wouldn't just have to be at these designated areas. Another key provision is that these events are only put on by nonprofit organizations. They're the only ones that are allowed to apply for special occasion ones. So they're different. Businesses, if they want to do a for-profit, it's different. These events only apply to special occasions, and that's an LCB requirement that has to be a nonprofit. It's not a City of Spokane requirement. The benefit, though, is that this would likely bring a lot more revenue to our nonprofits. Riverfront Park, the Pavilion, did a concert where they had a fenced-in beer garden versus having the whole concert venue, and they saw 3 times the sales when it was the whole event. And it's likely to bring more people. It's a better environment experience for a lot more people. And again, really bringing in a lot of families. There's always a concern again about underage drinking, but I like to say youth are probably not buying $8 to $10 beers. That's not usually their budget. So with that, I don't know if Councilmember Dillon wants to add anything more to that.
Yeah, the outreach around this has been fantastic. And when I worked for Senator Andy Billig, worked on the Washington movie theater legislation to expand their capacity to sell beer and wine. And, there was definitely some similar concerns with the rollout of that bill, just adding to the proliferation of alcohol and how does this mix with minors. But obviously, those concerns really didn't come to fruition with that law. And we've seen a lot of our local movie theaters really benefit from being able to, utilize this resource, and I think it'll be a great boom for our local events.
Any questions? Yeah. Or comments?
This sounds like a great idea. No significant concerns to me. I'm just wondering, is this policy matching state law, or are we still a little bit above the state?
No, this would be in line with state law.
Okay. And then what about for bars or private businesses or private venues? Are we above, I don't know the law, are we above what the regulations are at the state level on those too, or are we matching the state on those issues?
I don't know. Ginny and Chris have been doing a lot of work on this. Ginny,
Okay.
have you looked into that
I don't
at
have
all?
a quick answer to that.
And we can follow up offline. I'm just curious if we are also going overboard in some other areas, so.
And we might be. So that would be another opportunity where we can be in line. Having also spoken to some of these stakeholder groups, there's opportunity for reform at the state level too. That's really prohibiting a lot of the types of events that they want to have. And so I think there's an opportunity for us to bring that forward and be a leader across the state on some changes, especially gearing up for World Cup and thinking about the kind of events that we want to have, viewing parties, and what that would look like here. I know state law requires a fence, and that's one of the biggest barriers right now in the cost and also the fire code that's associated with fencing.
Is there a cost difference between 42 and 48 that's significant at all?
None that we heard, but we heard like 42, they might be able to use different things besides like a traditional fence. I don't know, I think LCB has specific requirements that they have around what that fence looks like. I know talking to like DSP, they wanted to look at different types of fencing that they could do as barriers. I think that, I mean, if we're looking at, this would again only apply to city right of way, but Riverfront Park and the parks currently operate under state code too. They actually don't have the more restrictive ones. And I don't think that there's a realization that they're different between the two. I think people just generally look at SMC and assume that's the same. But if you were talking about Pig Out in the Park, so talking to the Pig Out in the Park organizers, like this would be a lot more opportunity for us. But there's barrier, like, do you create a fence around all of Riverfront Park? And that would be really prohibitive, and then you have to have a number of exits, and it gets complicated. So I think there's opportunity for reform at the state level.
Back to your question, Councilmember Cathcart. The ordinance is built around special events. So if a bar is having a special event, it kind of depends what their basic permit allows under, for their operations. But this is really about special events.
Yeah, and I'm not suggesting we would include that other things in this per se, but it just might be another, thing to look at. So.
And with the special events, it's a nonprofit that I guess is the one that runs it, but distributors still make money from the sales too. So it's kind of multiple levels of increased sales.
Partnership.
Partnership. There's, what was I going to say on the special events? I think that there are just more barriers around this, but this is a step in the right direction.
Yeah, I agree. I think that we have a lot of cool events that happen in the city of Spokane, and I'm interested to see how maybe some of the parades lean into this. Hoop Fest is going to make it a ton of fun. It's already a ton of fun, but it'll just amplify all of that. I am interested in the conversations around litter cleanup and things like that after events, because there's going to naturally be an increase there. But I think these are all very, fixable issues that we're going to run into. So I think it's a good idea.
The signage or the fencing, when talking to the fire marshal, as soon as you put in a fence, if there's only 2 exits, it limits it to 500 people. So we're talking about pretty small events. If it's 2, 3 was maybe 1,000, and beyond that, then it's based on the width of the exit. But again, this is all in line with state code. This also does make a change on the hours that they can operate to be in line with state code too. So if it's with children, it's 9 o'clock. Without children, it's 11 o'clock. I'm looking at Jenny for confirmation, or Chris. Okay. So again, this is just making it in line, and then I think that we can keep lobbying for more changes if that's what we want. A big clarification too is this does not require every event to serve alcohol. It allows events to choose. So I think that's also important, because people might assume like every event will have it, but maybe Hoop Fest doesn't want it. Like every event gets to choose.
Yeah, one other question. So let's say that the Lilac Parade, that beer and wine wants to be sold, at this event. Is that the Lilac Parade that is going to be organizing all that, and are they liable for that entire area, or do they have the ability to sort of subcontract with a bunch of different local bars or groups to do that for them?
I'm not an expert on the Liquor Control Board application process, but I do know, as Councilmember Zappone said, it has to be a nonprofit organization typically that applies for the special events license. However they configure that, I would say that they probably would have problems having a large parade route authorized for alcohol service.
Well, and not just the Lilac Parade, but Hoop Fest, for example, they do have a beer garden, right? And so is it Hoop Fest that is operating that beer garden, or is that somebody again that they contract through? Do we know?
Sorry, as a nonprofit that's done this before,
Yeah.
You have to do it yourself.
Okay.
If you work with a provider, usually they have their own license that they operate under, which makes it actually easier for you.
Totally.
So,
It'll be interesting. I'm hopeful that some groups will take it, but like I said, for like the parade routes, I think the fencing is going to be a major barrier, and so we could look to the state at posting. Other states do that, right, where you just post it, or parks. We've talked about like bar crawl, or not bar crawl, like a roving bar. Milwaukee does that. That goes, and the parks can raise money off of that and different opportunities. So really excited to be bringing that forward, the Family Friendly Festivals Ordinance. All right, next up, we'll go to a resolution approving the budget funding agreement for bike lanes, and that's with Abby Martin. I think you're on the list for that, so hopefully you're prepared.
My understanding is that this is for the snowplow, small plow equipment to be used seasonally, primarily, I think, in the downtown area, and then for 4 laborers for the streets department to be maintaining our bikeways. So just investing the maintenance costs in the infrastructure we've already put in place.
Yeah. I believe it's not just for bike lane maintenance, but it's all traffic calming projects. Is that correct?
Sure.
Oh.
Yes.
When you say downtown, in what way downtown? We don't have, I mean, are you talking about just painted bike lanes that'd be used downtown, or are you suggesting sidewalks, or where downtown are we talking?
My understanding is that it would also be for like clearing sidewalks in the downtown area seasonally during the winter.
So I guess the only thing I would bring up is, and the same thing I mentioned earlier, and I don't know if you were here, but it seems to me that that would take a substantial amount of time throughout the day with one plow, and I don't feel like it's going to make its way up to Illinois in any sort of timely manner. So we need to develop a policy, I think, around what the prioritization and where this is used and how it's used.
Yeah, I was here when you were talking about, I think you mentioned 3 joint areas and who gets what when, and the snowfall is different in different parts of town. So yes.
Any other questions, comments? Great, very excited to see this, and I know it's been in the works for a long time, so appreciate your work on that.
Thanks. That's the least shaky I've ever been up.
Maybe we just need to have you up more often. All right, next up, we have an ordinance establishing a process for review of city-owned property with Alex Jabalisco.
Good afternoon, Chair Zapone. So I'm discussing an ordinance relating to the establishment of the process to consider and act upon the community's members' concerns regarding city-owned property and adopting a new chapter to the SMC. This ordinance was voted upon and passed last year, but was not brought back up after the mayor vetoed it. This chapter details and defines a process for reviewing, researching, receiving, and recommending action to address community concerns regarding institutional statements, names, or monuments on property owned by the city of Spokane. And recognizing that we have a few new council members, just a very quick outline of what the process is. So this ordinance assigns the Spokane Human Rights Commission to do the intake for a community concern and evaluate it. Then it'll be passed on to the Office of Civil Rights, Equity, and Inclusion to develop a recommendation in partnership with other city departments that impacts that ordinance or that property that is being discussed. Then it passes our recommendations to next steps to the Human Rights Commission, where then they will draft a resolution to council, and then it'll be up to council to move on those actions, whether to support it or not. There's also a naming policy asking the administration to review its current policies to reflect the value of this ordinance. There is one quick change from the last ordinance that was voted on, and that is adding a 180-day time frame for the administration to provide a recommendation to the Human Rights Commission. So next steps, first reading would be January 22nd, and final reading would be January 28th, and council comments or questions. Yeah.
Just clarifying your last comment, what do you mean a recommendation to the Human Rights Commission? I thought they were the ones developing the recommendation.
Yeah, so the Human Rights Commission would create a resolution to make the recommendations to council.
Right, but they have 180 days to do that, is what you're saying now.
Oh, okay. Let me back up. So that'll be the Office of Civil Rights, Equity, and Inclusion that would create a recommendation that then would go back to the Human Rights Commission to kind of review it, package it up, and present it to council in a resolution form.
So the Human Rights Commission, somebody has a concern, they hear it, they send it to the Office of Rights, they develop a recommendation. That recommendation goes back to the Human Rights Commission to develop a new recommendation. That new recommendation then comes to council, where we come up with our own policy version, or either agree with it or change it.
Yep.
And so that's what, so I guess, why does it have to go to the Human Rights Commission twice? I guess that's my question.
Oh, yeah. So they passed it on to the Office of Civil Rights to kind of do the research on what the policy and process is to either address it. It could also have the historical research done. So using all the city department as opposed of relying on the Human Rights Commission to do all that research.
And then what are the specific metrics that they're looking at to determine whether to ban some sort of a statue? So that it's not an emotional decision, but it is a data-driven, factual-driven decision. What is the requirements there?
Yeah, Jacoby, I don't know if you could pull up the presentation real quick. But it's outlined under the scope and purpose of it. I don't know if I can. So it'll be institutional names or monuments found in the city owned properties that reflect historical denial of human rights, discrimination, and exclusion that can trigger mental pain and suffering among community members, and also foster continuing disrespect of historically marginalized members to the community. And then you can find additional information under what they would be recommending under the process that the Human Rights Commission would also take into consideration, which would be Chapter 18, 10.030, subsection C, which would review the request and determine whether or not to start a review and follow that scope and purpose, but then also the content is likely, if the content is likely to cause mental pain, suffering, or disrespect in a reasonable person with a cultural background and lived experience that would make them vulnerable.
So there's, I mean, a lot of just opinion in there. I'm wondering, what's the requirement, though, for research, for consulting experts? And then just one example is, I know the one statue downtown that everybody has concerns about. I've heard from a lot of different sides on that, a lot of information never presented to us, this council body, that would actually counter some of the things presented here. So what are the requirements for actual investigation, research, expert-driven decision-making, rather than one person saying they don't like something?
Yeah, so I think that's, once a complaint is brought up to the Human Rights Commission, then they're able to evaluate that under some of these criteria. And then
But there's no requirement that they actually engage an expert, that they, multiple experts, different opinions. That's where I'm going with this, is there's no data-driven like mandates here. It's a lot of feeling, and I just want to make sure that we are doing things based on, facts.
Yeah, and well, I can leave it up to comments, but
yeah, that's the reason I opposed this before. Why, without some substantive changes, I won't support it again. So.
Well, I think that's the point of it going to the Office of Civil Rights, to give it to the administration to really look at, to develop the criteria, Councilman Cathcart. I certainly understand your concerns, that it's not an emotional decision. But until it gets over to the administration to help structure it, because they have to be the ones, and we've looked at, I talked to the mayor about it today, she has some concerns about, why isn't the Historical Preservation involved? Why is not the Landmarks Commission involved? So there are other entities that need to come to the table, but that will happen on the administrative side of the house, and we still have the ability to support or deny the request. So.
Yeah, and I would just add that I think a lot of our Human Rights Commission, our Office of Civil Rights, I mean, I trust their expertise. They're giving their time, they support this endeavor. And I think too, there are issues that can be hard to necessarily qualify with data without knowing exactly what kind of data, you're looking for. I think that there is an emotional reaction to, statues that are offensive or markings that are certainly offensive, and that is very, very valid. And I wouldn't want to invalidate those feelings, because it's, I think, too often easy to kind of stand up here and kind of try to mandate or at least try and kind of shift some outcomes when we have to really listen to communities that have experienced depression, marginalized communities that are coming to us with a proposal that they'd like to see.
Any other comments? All right, thanks. And Alex, while you're up here, let's go ahead and move on to the next one, which is the resolution against anti-Semitism and Islamophobia.
Before we move past that one, I need a second sponsor. I've got Council Member Dillon as sponsor on number 7 on the renaming. Is there a second?
Council President, did you?
Absolutely, Chair.
And I'll add myself as a third.
Thank you.
Okay. So this resolution expressing the city's desire to be inclusive, respectful, and just city to stand up against hate, anti-Semitism, and Islamophobia. This was in response to a hearing of the increased acts of hate against Jewish and Muslim residents in our Spokane community. Council members and a diverse voice of community members came together to work through our differences, talk about the impacts and experiences in the community, and come up with a resolution that kind of worked to unite our Spokane community. It outlines some actions for City Council to work on against anti-Semitism and Islamophobia, and our next step is to have the resolution voted on January 22nd.
Alice, could you share how many groups actually attended these meetings to help draft this resolution, or
Yeah,
folks?
I think our invite grew as we went through this process. So I was hearing from our Muslim community about some of the experiences that some of the students had at their schools. It really grew to bringing up our Jewish community, our pro-Palestine groups, and our Muslim community groups together to, I think our list grew up to over 30 people that were part of the invites, of course, but then we had multiple conversations with rabbis and just various community people that were interested. Yeah, yes.
So just to confirm, though, kind of respected religious leaders on all sides were consulted in this process?
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Yeah.
I would say that we did our best to try to be inclusive of everyone, to be at the table talking about it. That doesn't mean that it was perfect. And I just want to thank the community members that did come. This was over 20 people that met multiple times for hours to talk about this, and they were very difficult conversations and different perspectives people were coming from, and just want to really thank them for their time and their effort on this. It's not necessarily exactly what everybody wanted, but it was really kind of what our community was saying. Again, everyone felt like they were comfortable with this to move forward, and I think that's quite a statement to say from, some very strong rabbi leaders to a socialist party. We're all there having this conversation and came to an agreement on this. So I want to thank them again for their help on that.
I have to echo that. First couple of meetings, I didn't know if we were going to survive. Let's just be honest about that. But it was encouraging that these very different groups who had very different ideas were able to sit and work through it. I think we had 3 or 4 meetings, and then they did work outside of the meetings. So it just affirmed to me that as a community, we can get through difficult conversations and get to agreement. May not be perfect, but we can get there. So I look forward to more of those conversations going forward.
Yeah, I really appreciated council and all the community members really leaning into those difficult conversations.
Yeah, I even sent the resolution off to some of the groups that came in and spoke. And one of the comments I heard was, it's difficult to get Zionists and anti-Zionists to agree on language, and the fact that they came together and have a communal statement that they can, both support was some good work there. And so, Alex, thanks for that, but also Councilmember Zepone, I thought in those meetings, I thought you were really fantastic in a lot of regards. And so I think you should receive a lot of credit for the work that you did on this. So nice job.
All right, thanks, Alex. And the last 2 on here are resolutions in support of Spokane Public Schools levy and bond, and also, I thought there was a library one on there too.
There is.
Oh yeah, I'm skipping over it, but also a library one. So these are resolutions that would come from council saying that we support the upcoming ballot measures. I think that both schools and libraries play a critical function and a cornerstone of our city and the development of our workforce and social safety nets and social cohesion and tolerance in our community. So thought it was critically important for us to show our community that we're in support of these, and I'll look to other council members for also supporting that to show a unanimous sign to our community.
I did ask council members Apone to have the school district come and give us some informational update on their levy. I think they want to partner with us. They need to come, not that we're not in support of the levy, but they need to come and make their case to the community as well and step up. So we look forward to hearing from them in the near future before this is voted upon.
And I'm sure they're more than willing. They're doing the rounds and educating everyone about the school levy and bond. And all of those are maintained taxes, too. None of them are tax increase. So I think that's important to remind people. Any questions?
No.
All right, with that.
You just need a second sponsor on
I
that
need
one.
a second sponsor on that.
I'll be the second sponsor.
For both of them?
Sure.
Thanks.
All right. So with that, that concludes the January 8th meeting. The next Urban Experience meeting will be November 5th. Thanks, everyone.
We'll be when?
Quick 25-minute break.
Yeah.
But briefing will be that